A new episode of the One Piece anime dropped, episode 1101. And well, it was a great episode, not gonna lie. A lot of things happened in that episode, and the main thing, in my opinion, that we should look at is the power of Gear 5 and how he just went at Lucci and basically embarrassed him. Like, the scenes of Gear 5 in this episode are better, in my opinion, than the scenes in Wano. Here we actually dive more into the Gear 5 power that Luffy has. This is not gonna have manga spoilers for now. When I'm gonna talk about the manga, I'm gonna tell you, so don't worry about that. The episode starts with Sun Tomorrow on the ground after Lucci has attacked him. Luffy is there. His fight against Lucci continues, and basically Lucci finally lands an attack on Luffy, and with no use. The attack didn't actually do anything to Luffy. Their fight continues a bit more, with finally Luffy kicking him and throwing him at a building behind him. But even though the attack is actually well done and beautifully animated, Luffy, while Jinbei and Chopper are escaping, can't control himself and keeps spinning and spinning and falls to the ground. He disappears while Sin Tomorrow is there by himself. Then the episode cuts off to Vegapunk, where he reveals interesting stuff that a lot of people who only watch the anime never knew, that he can replicate the powers of the devil fruits, but he doesn't know if he can actually replicate them to the point of awakening them. The seraphims are a product of that. Each of them has a power of a devil fruit, of a warlord, and he's done it by mixing blood, and it's green blood and whatnot. The thing that he does is way more advanced than Caesar. Even Frankie knows this, because the one that resembles Jinbei has the same devil fruit power as Senior Pink from Dressrosa. When we go back to Sin Tomorrow and Lucci comes back up from the attack from Luffy. He goes at Sin Tomorrow, and the scenes of Lucci are just beautiful. The animation on them all are well done. He goes at him, but Luffy doesn't let him. He comes up from the ground and his head is big. His whole body is. I remember the scene from the manga, and they've done it, in my opinion, more beautifully than the manga. In the anime, all of the scenes of Gear 5 are just fun to watch. Like, watching them, seeing them, just gives a new taste. And you're gonna see in a second when the fight continues and the real power of the Joy Boy is revealed. He jumps up behind Lucci, and then he gets an idea, and we see the idea actually popping up in his head, and he reaches for a tube in the sky, and when he touches it, the tube turns to white. Why? Because an awakened devil fruit user, the Joy Boy, touched it, and when he's done that, the whole tube becomes rubber. He just latches himself on it and actually makes glasses, like a plane fighter pilot glasses, and locks on to Lucci and throws himself at him with an attack. And that attack was the final straw in their fight. Lucci says also something interesting after it. How powerful is he? Because the way Luffy fights, he's not even serious. I know he's laughing, I know he's the Joy Boy, but the whole fight, he's not even going at him with full power. But at the end, he showed him what he can do. He showed him the power that he actually has. Right then and there, Luffy wins the fight. He beats Rob Lucci after he actually gave him a taste of his power. We see glimpses of their past fight, like side by side, the same scenario happening again, and this small touch just gives the fight more meaning. This is the thing about the anime that it does right. It gives you the feeling of the stakes of the fight, and it makes you feel nostalgia. The fight between Lucci and Luffy isn't even the main fight in this arc. There's more fights that are, in my opinion, are better than it. And we're getting this animation and this level of dedication to this fight just says and shows how they plan on doing the rest of the fights. Like the fight with Kizaru that is coming up is gonna be, in my opinion, way better than this. If Luffy's and Lucci's fights like this, imagine the fights to come. And I'm just happy. I'm happy to be a One Piece fan at this point, and I'm happy to see every fight and every scene beautifully animated. Like, I can't stress this enough. And the meaning behind the scene with Luffy and Lucci, where it just shows how it was back then, gives a meaning shows us that no matter the time, Luffy always comes on top, and just shows the difference in power that rose in this period. Even though Lucci awakened his devil fruit powers, he's still no match for Luffy. He's still not even close to his power, the power of the Gear 5, the Sun God Nika. And I'm just happy that they showed it this way. After it, Sin Tomorrow tells Luffy to take care of Vegapunk. He trusts him to protect him. And Luffy just looks at him and smiles. Of course he will do it. Of course he will protect Vegapunk. And then we get a couple of scenes while they're going up towards the lab in the sky, and Luffy turning back to normal, and we see Bonnie. But the main thing in this episode is the power of Gear 5, and this is not even everything that he can do. Like, in my opinion, reading the manga and watching how the anime has done the fights, I gotta give it to the anime in terms of engaging you in the fight and actually showing what Gear 5 is and what Gear 5 can actually do. It's interesting. Like, all of the fight scenes that you're seeing and you've seen in this episode are creative. How Luffy, everything he touches becomes rubber. How even Lucci in his awakened state is nothing compared to how Luffy is, and he acknowledged it at the end. He asked himself, how strong is he actually? How powerful is this guy? And here I'm gonna talk a bit of spoilers in the manga, so this is your warning. Now in the manga, in the recent chapters, and this is your final spoiler warning, where Luffy fights the elders. I can only imagine how powerful Luffy is to hold his own against 5 of the elders, and just imagining it now, how it will be animated, the fights between him and Kizaru, between him and Saturn and the elders. It's just interesting, since now we know how the anime does it. We know that the anime, I don't know, it just gives it that extra feeling with the music, the sound effects, and expanding more in the fight. It just hooks you in the fight more, and I'm just excited to see in those extra fights in the anime. But the power of Gear 5, this was a taste of it, and in the manga we've seen more and more how he can turn himself into other forms that become bigger and hold his own against Kizaru and Saturn. But there's more to it. This was just a hint of what the real power of the Joy Boy, the Sun God Nika, is, and there's more to come, more powers. This is the power of Gear 5 Luffy, the power of the Sun God Nika. And this was the end of episode 1101, and in the next episode from the preview we're gonna see Kuma finally, and a lot more. But the fights are gonna need a couple of episodes to actually resume the main fights. Now I'm happy seeing the fight between Luffy and Lucci, and I'm excited to see more of the fights to come. And yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you on the next one. Bye bye, Straw Hat.